Hey guys, and welcome to a pretty little podcast. I'm Allie Violet Vixen Commissaro.
And I'm Jessie. We're happy to have you guys back for another week, and we're super excited.
Tonight's guest. Get ready to dive headfirst into the raunchy and rebellious world of Trashy Annie. The electrifying singer is a sonic force to be reckoned with, commanding attention wherever she goes with an unapologetic blend of gritty country rock and punk attitude and an infectious energy. Trashy Annie is here to shake up the music scene like a wild whirlwind.
That was great. Did you write that? That was really great.
Yeah, I
it.
try to do like the introductions for all the
He's the
guests.
best at it. He's the best at it. I'm impressed every time.
I'm impressed too. That's well done. I'm going to use that. It's really good.
So how you doing tonight?
Great. Thank you guys for having me. This is awesome.
So let's dive right in.
Okay.
How did Trashy Annie come together as a band?
Oh man. It's been a process. So I got into songwriting, and so I was a trumpet player through college, but then I took a like forever off of music because I was like, oh crap, what am I doing? I don't want to be a musician and live in a van down by the river and make $8 a week, so I pivoted and did some other stuff, and got back into music during the pandemic. So I bought a guitar and decided I was going to learn to write one song because I kind of had this fear of singing. I had never done anything like that. I was like, this is the most terrifying thing I can imagine in life is singing in front of people. So I was like, I'm going to do it one time. I'm going to write a song. I'm going to go to an open mic. And the pandemic had just hit. So I was like, this is cool. It's something that I can, kind of learn how to do while I'm in isolation. So bought a guitar, learned to play one chord, wrote a song with just the one chord, and went out to an open mic and did my little song, and it was horrifying. And a ton of whiskey and wine and things later. I get on the stage, I'm like, okay, I can do this. I can't stand up and play guitar at the same time, so I'm sitting down and the guitar's like sliding off my lap. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. So anyway, got through the thing and was like, man, this is I kind of love it. And it wasn't nearly as scary as I thought it was going to be. And really, the thing that I fell in love with was songwriting. I love the process. I love everything about it. I used to write poetry as a kid. I was super introverted and just kind of a nerdy, shy kid. And so I used to write and read a lot. And so all of that stuff kind of came flooding back, and I was able to package it into song form and just ended up loving it. So, anyway, so that song that I wrote called Runnin', I was like, I kind of like how this turned out. It's cool that it's one chord, and I kind of got good feedback on it. So I was like, maybe I want to learn how to all the rest of the things. Like, how do you produce a song, and how do you put it out on Spotify? How do you make a music video? I'm not any of these things. And so I went through all of that process, and I learned how to do it, and I put it out on Spotify, and I was super proud. And I was like, well, now I should make a music video. I don't really know how to do any of these things, but let me try. I didn't have a YouTube channel. I was like, I know the cool kids have YouTube, So I was like, let me figure out how to do this. So I made this video myself with my iPhone for this tune. And I got all these ridiculous clothes and dressed up and like did all this editing and was super proud of it, put it out on YouTube. And this lady got on there, and her comment was, aren't those clothes a little young for you? And I was like, it was, I had never,
I it every once in a while
was,
too. I mean,
yeah, you know,
I
so
think when you're rebellious with style, like it happens.
yeah, it happens, right? But I
People
didn't.
think you have to lock yourself in to you hit a certain age and you have to completely stop being fun and enjoying your life and have to drop everything, which isn't true at all.
I remember reading some article that said that women shouldn't wear jeans past the age of 40. And I was just like, what even world are we living in at this point, right? So that was how Trashy Annie came to be, was when that lady wrote that thing. I had put so much of my heart and vulnerable self into putting this out into the world. And I was kind of heartbroken for a second. And then I was like, wait a second. Screw this freaking lady, right? Like, you shouldn't tell people what to wear. I don't care what age you are. Why is that a thing? So that's why I named the band Trashy Annie, because I was like, screw it. If people are gonna call me trashy for the clothes I wear on stage, then so be it. And here you go, you know. And so it's kind of evolved into this whole thing. It's very cool because I feel like this brand now is just a connection with kind of the people who aren't subscribing to the societal norms and who are okay with themselves and okay being different and outliers and all of the things. And so it suits me because I've always been a little bit that way anyway. But so that's how it's kind of evolved into being what Trashy Annie is. And now I have a band full of awesome people. And so we've been on tour and doing the whole thing now. But yeah, it's been quite a journey over the last couple of years, but it's been awesome.
So, what would you say is your overall sound and style? Like, if you were kind of categorized, because I kind of said to everybody, I was like, this is like our first, like, kind of country rock,
Like alternative
Yeah,
country.
yeah, like musician on.
yeah,
So, I was kind of psyched. What would you
yeah.
categorize you? Would you
It's a
say it would be
little.
country rock?
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, I kind of describe it as rock and roll with a country soul because it really my heart is in rock and roll. That is what I love
Yeah.
above all things, you know. And so my songwriting when I first started was very singer-songwritery and stripped down because that's when you start and you're by yourself and all you have is a guitar, stuff just tends to kind of work because you can't play riffs, you can't play anything cool, you know, so you kind of write these real stripped down introspective songs, which I like that stuff too. But once I started getting a band together and started getting a little bit better with my guitar and stuff, I was able to start writing some heavier tunes. And I was like, oh, I love rock and roll. It's what I've always loved. It's what I've always listened to as a human, outside of being a musician. And so I think that's where it's going. It's leaning more and more towards rock with a little bit of country.
Yeah.
But the way that I sing and the way that I write my songs are kind of story driven tunes, and so a lot of time that feels a little more country than anything else. And then the way I sing has a little twang to it. So I think country rock or alternative country. What even is that anymore? Because you see rock and roll, and there's like all the subcategories. There's like 200 subcategories of rock and
Yeah.
roll.
I
Like what
love that people. I mean, we have a ton of bands on that they give themselves their own name. They don't even want to go by like an actual genre. They're like, oh, we're blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not
It's
putting
kind of how it
yourself
is
into
now.
a box.
Yep. And I think it's a cool thing now, the way that music is evolving, because
Mhm.
the lines are very blurred. And I'm trying to continue to push the boundaries a little bit. I just wrote a hip hop song, and I've got some stripped down acoustic stuff, and we're working on a funk tune, and just it's cool. I like that there's not boxes anymore. And when fans come to shows, they're kind of I think the streaming and the Spotify world has allowed us to jump genres on our playlist from one to the next. So people don't sit down and listen to a whole album of an artist anymore anyway. And because it'll feel like, oh, I'm bored of this. I've heard 3 songs of this same person. I want to go to something else now. So I think that we have to evolve as artists that way too, to give people a show that keeps them engaged and kind of guessing and feels
Mhm.
different from song to song, not just same old all the way through. So yeah.
So, who would you say are some of your like influences?
Man, that's always such a hard question for me because I've listened to so many types of music through my life. And I think that all of that stuff molds you as an artist, and kind of little things stick even when you don't know if they stick. But I just love a lot of stuff. I mean, I grew up listening to um, a lot of old country. My mom had a lot of Willie and Waylon records, and I used to love Simon and Garfunkel and the Beatles and all of those guys back in the day. Those were the albums that I would put on my mom's turntable when I was a kid. And then in the high school time frame, I listened to a lot of like NWA and Eminem, and like went through the rock or the rap stage, and so I've just bounced around a whole lot. I think nowadays I listen to I listen to 70s and 80s and 90s rock. I love I love going back and listening to the Stones, and I love Joan Jett and like that whole genre of
Yeah.
people. And then there's a lot of newer kind of Americana stuff that I like too. I don't know if you guys are familiar with there's a guy I listen to a lot named Rustin Kelly. He was married to Casey Musgraves, so he's kind of in that little bit of country genre world.
I think I've heard him on TikTok.
He's got really great lyrics, and that's part of why I listen to him, because I love when songs can just take you somewhere emotionally. I don't care what genre that's in, whether it's happy, sad, whatever, I'm in, So I just love a good songwriter. It doesn't matter what genre it is. So that's why it's always hard to know like who my influences are, because it's everything. I went to Egypt recently and I was hearing these guys playing all these weird instruments that I've never seen before. And I was like, oh, that could be cool in a song. So there's a whole world out there that I feel like I'm still absorbing and learning from. So
what would you say inspires the raw and rebellious energy that your music has?
I think it's the idea that people should not worry about the constructs that they try to put us in. Like you said, the boxes and you're supposed to be this way. Are you supposed to be this or that or the other thing? Are you supposed to look this way when you're this age or this gender or this anything else? And I think that for me, I feel like that's all a total load of shit. And so if I can write songs that feel like, hey, this song's about a girl who's totally okay with herself being a prostitute, or like this song's about hookers and blow and just like living the life, or whatever. And in fact, one of my favorite tunes that I wrote recently that came out on this most recent album, this first album of mine, it's called Born Pretty. And this tune is about, I love this song. It's about a girl who has a glass eye and a limp and little bitty titties and like, all the things and a gap tooth and whatever. And she's like, I don't know, I guess I was just lucky. I was born this pretty, She's just like totally okay with herself and like whatever, And so I think that to me sort of embodies what this whole message and who I'm about. Just be yourself. Be okay with yourself. It's okay to love yourself. Yeah. I don't care what you look like or what size you are, what age you are, anything else, And when I grew up, when I was a kid when I was in school, I grew up really poor. I was on food stamps and welfare, single parent household, super bad acne and frizzy hair, and didn't have, the fancy nice clothes and all the things. And so I grew up, how it is when you're sort of an outlier like that as a kid, you have to sort of go inward. You have to like learn to just be okay with what's on the inside, because people aren't validating you for what's on the outside. And you could either go a direction that's not so great, some people do, or you can start to really just be okay with yourself. And that was how ultimately the way that I ended up. And I think it served me well in life, just being okay with who I am and what I do and whatever. So I think that's the message in my music. And that's sort of where that, like you said, the rebellious side in the music comes from. It's okay. Let's just be ourselves and who we are. And
you must have had so much fun with that video.
Oh my God. That Born Pretty video. And the thing is, it was such a challenge because I do all these things myself to try to keep the cost down. It's hard when you're schlepping along by yourself trying to figure all this out, and pay for it and everything else. So I just got my band together and I was like, okay, guys, let's go to this club that we play at from time to time. They're closed on Sundays. They'll let us come shoot there. I pulled my friend with his video equipment. I'm like, you're going to film us. We're going to do something. I don't even know. And we got a bunch of tutus and glitter and, capes and things. And I was like, we're just gonna have some fun with this. And we had the best time. It was so much fun.
It looks fun.
It was so much fun. And I feel like it was great.
So what inspired that particular song? Because that's one of my favorites too.
Thank you. I think it really was, it all was rooted in that original ladies comment. It was all about just, that lady has inspired a lot of great things because, I ended up with a cool band name. I've written a few songs that I feel like kind of stem from that idea of just, be okay with yourself. And so I think that tune kind of goes back to that as well. It's just, it's mostly that. It's mostly people saying, hey, you need to be a certain way, and us saying, why? Why can't I just be how I am and be happy with that? So
now, how do you capture that like gritty essence in your songs? Because you do some covers and they're totally your own.
Yeah, we did Drift Away. Yeah, that was the first cover I released. Well, like I say, this was my first album, so there will be more covers to come down the road. But that particular song, I just have loved it since I was a kid. It's one of those tunes that everybody knows, and it's a song that makes you feel good and sing along and everything else. But I was like, I don't want to just do covers because it's not my jam. I like writing music. So I
Mhm.
really wanted to do something that was just made it our own. And so I took that into the studio with the guys that I work with in Arizona. And I was like, hey, I've got this idea for this Adobe Grey tune, and they both love it too. And they were like, yeah, we can work with this. And so it just started to take shape. And the idea of bringing in horns and starting slow and then ramping it up, like the whole thing. I love how that tune ended up coming out. I think it's so cool. So
Now, were you nervous going into it because you were changing it? Because I mean, that's such an iconic song, and people are so used to hearing it
I know,
in
but
a
I was like, you
certain
know
way.
what? Uncle Cracker did a version of it. I was like, I was like, if they can do that, we can go after it too.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So nothing against Uncle
I
Cracker, but
love
you know what I
that.
mean? It's like, oh. Just it's a great tune, and when the bones are good, if you build on that and don't try to break it down and like redo it too far from the original bones, it's hard to mess up a good song. I mean, those that song is just so well written. It's kind of hard to mess it up. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun to mess around with it. It's really fun to do that one live. So
So, other than saying like "fuck you" to the woman that trolled you, are there any other particular themes or messages that you like to convey through your songs?
I don't I don't know if I have any particular messages other than what we already talked about. And I think the thing I don't know if this is necessarily something that I convey through my songs, but I think another thing, I get a lot of messages on social media that say, "Hey, I'm in my 40s and I just picked up my first guitar," or "I'm 65 and I just picked up my first drumsticks." Like, how did how did you do it? What did you do? And I was like, "Well, I'm still terrible, but I'm learning." And the big deal is keeping being consistent and not giving up on it. I mean, that's the one thing I think I have. I'm not naturally good at very many things at all. I might have a little bit of natural talent on the songwriting side, but pretty much everything else in my life, I've just had to work really, really hard to even be passively okay at. And so, but what I do have is an ability to just keep going back,
You're
and
a
not. I
dedicated person.
I'm a dedicated person. I hate sucking
Yeah.
at things. And because I suck at a lot of things, I just have to keep going after it. And so I think that's the other message that I tell people a lot is, if you want something, go after it like it's your last day on earth because, life is so short and who gives a shit if you're 65 and this is your first drum kit? Like, go on. You're going to be 65 whether you play the drums or don't play the drums. So you might as well play the drums, right? So it's I think that's another thing that's really important to me to convey to people is just it's never too late to start doing the thing that you want to do, whatever that is, and not be afraid of it because it's scary. It's scary to have people judge you. It's scary to go out there and put your, especially music or poetry or art of any kind, putting your vulnerable guts on the table for people to just like thumbs up or thumbs down. Like social media is like, oh yeah, good job, or oh. And so I think that you have to have a really tough skin, thick skin if you're going to be in this art world. But at the end of the day, it's totally worth it because if you're doing it for yourself, then who cares? It doesn't matter what other people think or say or anything else. People are going to connect with you because if you're authentic to yourself, it's going to resonate with somebody else. If you're trying
Mhm.
to write for other people or do art that you think other people are going to like just to get famous or whatever, that never works because it's not authentic. People don't connect with that. So that's my
So
own
now
little
that
like.
the pandemic's sort of like over and people are making their way back out to live shows, what can fans expect from your live show?
I think our live show is more fun than the music. I like the music and I love how it turned out at the studio. I think the album came out awesome because I have some great producers and great people playing on the album. But
And what
our
is the
live
name
show
of
is
the
just
album?
the name. So this is a good story. So the name is called Sticks and Stones, and the back album cover is screenshots of all the mean things people have said on social media to me over the last year. And then the front album art is just a big glittery middle finger. So yeah, I'm partial to the album art. I think it turned out pretty good.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so that's the album. And yeah, the live show is a lot of fun. I mean, it's high energy. We kind of take you on a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. Sometimes I'll throw a couple sad ones in there just because they mean something to me. I wrote one for my dad who died of cancer, and occasionally I'll pull that one out. But I cry when I play it, so I hardly ever bring it out. But for the most part, it's a pretty rockin', upbeat, sweaty ass, hands in the air, rock and roll show. We have people. I always wear these little like wigs and things and little kitty ears on stage and whatever. So we'll have people show up in kitty ears and glitter and just like, it's just a big party. It's so much fun. I love when people dress up and like, wear as much ridiculous shit as they have in their closet, because that's what it's all about. We're having a good old time up there. So
I love that there's always one woman that's judging you. Like, I just wore cat ears out like not too long ago, and I had this woman all night that like was completely judging me.
it's what they do. People judge, man.
And mine were like bedazzled, like they were bedazzled cat ears. So I mean, like
the best
they
kind.
were really sparkly and just.
Yeah.
All girls are born with glitter in their veins.
That's right. That's right. People ask me my favorite color, and I'm like, glitter. Anything glitter. My band is so funny because there is glitter all over everything. And so they just come home from every show covered in glitter, and their wives are just like, what? And they're like, this is just part of our lives.
They hate glitter? Because there are people that hate them.
There are. And I've gotten that whole thing of like, glitter's ruining the world and that whole deal. But I'm like, it's so beautiful. So
you're allowed to have things you can enjoy.
I know. I enjoy glitter. It's just all over. It's everywhere. There's glitter all over this table. It's everywhere.
You got to make sure that you bring your wife so that she doesn't think that you're at a strip club. Like when you come home with glitter all over you.
I know, from Trashy Annie. Like it doesn't sound good, right? Yeah. It's fun.
So, can you tell us about any memorable moments from your live performances?
Oh man,
whether it's an interaction with a fan or whatever.
I've had so many, and I don't know if I can even remember them kind of on the spot. However, I will say we just got back from a tour out in. We played Nashville, then we went to Knoxville, then we went out to the East Coast and played like the Hilton Head, Savannah area, and then came back to Atlanta and like did that loop. And so we played this show out in Hilton Head, and that's out in South Carolina. And I've played out there, I think about 4 times. And the reason we started going out there, because it's a long way from Texas, and we're still a very new band. Usually they say, learn your own market before you start getting out on the road. But I was playing an open mic of some sort right after the pandemic up in Denver, Colorado. And this fan was there who'd been following Trashy Annie all along on Facebook and whatever. And he showed up at the open mic. And he's like, man, I'm from Hilton Head. You got to come out to Hilton Head. They love live music. And I was like, oh, I don't even know where that is. But I'd heard that, there's golf tournaments out there and stuff. That's all I knew. Fancy area. So I was like, let me check it out. So we ended up going out there and playing this show and had like 250 people show up to our first night. No one had ever heard of us. And we have this packed, like line out the door, full capacity show. And I was like, okay, maybe we should keep going out here. So we've been going out there a couple of times a year. So we just went out there this last 2 weeks ago and had the best show. I mean, it was so much fun. It was fully packed. And now we know these people. Now we've got fans that put us up at their house. They feed us. They take us out on their boats. They just take such good care. And we're rolling in all sweaty and disgusting in our van, after being in the van for 12 hours, whatever. And they just take us in and feed us and do all this stuff. So that was one of the coolest things, was recognizing that one of the coolest parts about getting out on the road and playing live shows and continuing to work in those same markets is you just build relationships with people that you would have never met had you not played music, and it's just the coolest thing. I get messages. I had a guy make me this beautiful custom guitar strap, this leather Trashy Annie guitar strap with all these flowers, like handmade from Chihuahua, Mexico. And he just sent it to me because he's like, I love your music and I just want you to have this. And I treasure this thing now. So I get the nicest messages and the sweetest things from fans. And we would have never met had it not been for the music. So I think it's not one experience or anything else. It's just a multitude of experiences and connections with people that you get through music that is just so cool. It's really great.
So, how do you keep your music fresh and keep that unapologetic vibe with it?
It's a good question. I'm still so new that I think I have a lot of built up stuff. So I have a lot to write about because I didn't write for 20 years. And all of a sudden I'm like, I have all these things I can write about. I'm sure at some point the well kind of runs dry and I run out of that. But I think that there are ways to keep it fresh because every time I put on a new genre of music or I listen to a new artist, new ideas come out. Like, oh, I love how they did this. I've been listening to a lot of K Flay lately, and I love her. She's great, and I love the way that she, puts her background being a DJ in with rap and just she's great. And so anyway, every time I bring a new artist into my world, I learn new stuff and I kind of get inspired. And so I think that's the way to keep it fresh is listening to new people, constantly having your ears open to new music, and picking up new instruments. Like I say, I'm pretty terrible on everything I play, but I play a little bit of a lot of things because if I sit down at the piano, I have a whole different array of ideas that come versus sitting down at the drums or sitting down at a guitar or mandolin or any of that. So I think that's the way is to just keep mixing up my experiences and not get stagnant. Because I only know so many chords on the guitar. I'm not very good. So if I sit down, it's going to be the same shit coming out every time I play it, right?
So, do you have any collaborations or like people that you would love to open for at a festival or show?
Oh man, there are so many people. There are so many people that I would love to open for. But you know who I love so much? I really, like I said before, I love Joan Jett. And this is a cool collaborative thing. So just today, I actually got some music back because her drummer of like 40 years, Tommy Price, I met him and actually ended up getting to play his drums at a show, which was amazing. But I met him through a mutual friend of ours who had turned him on to my music. And he said, I love your music. He said, I'd like to work together. I'd like to do some collaborative writing. So today we were just working on song ideas back and forth. And that is just, it's such a cool thing because this guy's like, he played for Billy Idol and he's amazing. And so he is somebody this is kind of a beginning of a relationship. And then I've got these great producers out in Arizona that worked with me on this album. So their names are Jeff Lesby Brault and PH Naffa. And PH is the drummer for a band called Roger Klein and the Peacemakers out in Arizona. They used to be the Refreshments back in the day. And those two are just also so great to collaborate and work with. They have so many great ideas. So I usually take my lump of clay of a song and I'll dump it on the table for them and be like, hey guys, let's make this pretty, And they're like, oh, we've got this idea and that idea, and then we mold it. Next thing you know, it's this beautiful, shiny little diamond. So I think those guys are also sort of a secret weapon for me. But other than them and this newly budding relationship with Tommy, I haven't ever really written with anybody before. So that's another area when you talk about how do you keep things sort of fresh and new. I think that's another way is collaborating with other writers who have a different style and a different take on songwriting and everything else. So, and my band is amazing. So I'm starting to do some stuff with them. I'm like, okay, well, what are your guys' ideas on the hook for the song or the melody? So I think that's we'll see. And then as far as the opening for people, oh my God. Yeah. Like there are just too many. There's too many to name. But who I really, this is a random little, not even little, but a random band that doesn't tour that much, but there's a band called Nashville Pussy. Are you familiar? They're fucking great, right? And their music is so good and so fun and so like rock and roll awesome. And I was reintroduced to them on the Peacemaker show on I think Netflix or whatever. But anyway, they're on one of their songs is on that soundtrack, and I was like, oh yeah, these guys are great. So anyway, it'd be fun to open for them. So Nashville Pussy, if
take
you're out
the
there.
money aspect out of it. Do you prefer to play like the bigger festivals, or do you prefer to kind of play those intimate bars and dive bars and kind of like float around town to town?
Yeah, I like everything. We're still new. I have played trumpet. I played trumpet with the Peacemakers that I just mentioned out of Arizona at a couple of really big festivals that they are a part of. So I've played at festivals in that respect, but I haven't ever played any really big festivals with Trashy Annie yet because we're still very new. But I love festivals, and I think that that's the thing we're going to go after this next year because for us right now, where we are as a band, the more eyeballs, the better, right? Because small clubs are super fun, but you can only get so many people in there. And for us, as we're trying to climb this ladder and get our names out there, the more people that we can see at one time, the better. And also, I don't care if it's a tiny club or a huge festival. I just want people. I want a bunch of people having a good time together. And so if it's a tiny club but it's packed, super, super fun. If it's a tiny club with 3 people in it, less fun. So I think it depends more on the crowd than it does the venue at this point. Because we've played it all, right? We've played the shows for 2 people in the back of the bar where nobody's listening. And have you guys seen Hedwig and the Angry Inch?
One of my favorite movies of all
Right?
time.
So I
Yeah.
just watched it again on the plane, and the opening scene, where she's like, "Hello, Kansas City," and everyone's like
Yeah.
eating their steak in the corner, like what are
Yeah.
they doing? That's us sometimes. And so we've done those kind of gigs, the Bilge Waters gigs, but we're getting a growing fan base. We're playing a lot better venues these days. We've got a really cool Pacific Northwest run coming up with a lot of great venues. So it's a process, but to answer your question, yeah, anywhere where there's people, we're gonna have a good time.
Do you want to throw out a couple of the places that you're playing coming up?
Yeah, actually, we are playing. So let me think here. Coming up in the Austin area, we've got a show Wednesday night, the 12th, which is going to be super fun at a place called 13th Floor, which is an awesome club in Austin. And then the tour that we have coming up in the Pacific Northwest, where we play the Charleston, which is in Bremerton, Washington, on August 3rd. We play the Fun House, which is attached to El Corazon, which is an awesome club in Seattle on the 4th. Then we play the White Eagle, which is a really cool venue in Portland, Oregon on the 5th. And then we play the Knitting Factory, which is awesome. It has this a venue called the District Bar in Spokane. That's the 6th, and then we play the Spanish Ballroom in Tacoma on August 7th. So that's kind of our next set of stuff that's coming up, and all of those venues are awesome and going to be really, really fun. We've got some other artists joining us, support artists on some of those shows that are. It's going to be a really fun run. So
Now, as far as social media platforms, what what is your go-to? We always talk about, like, we all have our go-to platform
yeah,
that we kind of like use
yeah.
more than the others. I mean, we try to post to all of them, but what is
I
your go-to, like, if someone's trying to book you or trying to get the latest on the band? What would
Yeah, so
you suggest they
we've
go
got,
to?
from a social perspective, Instagram is probably our best tool. I think it's the most user friendly for me, the way that kind of I operate. So
Mhm.
Instagram I keep pretty updated, but really I built my website myself and I try to make it very up to date. So if people go on trashyannie.com, there's live clips on there. There's all of our tour dates. There's pictures. There's a way to subscribe to the website. There's a way to order merch. There's like all the stuff is on there. Plus all the links to social and Spotify and all of the places you can hear the music. So I try to drive people there because depending on what platform they use and what they like, then they can just get to where they need to be because it's pretty user friendly too. So
And
that's
as
that's
far
my
as streaming, you said Spotify, Apple,
all the
YouTube.
places. Yep. I have a distributor. So I'm signed to Cleopatra Records out of LA. And so they distribute through the Orchard, who distributes all the places you can find music, all the, Deezer and YouTube, all the places. So anywhere anybody listens to music, they can find us if they search for Trashy Annie.
Yeah, I got really excited when I found Born Pretty on TikTok.
I'm so happy
It's
because
like, yay! I did a little
yeah.
video.
Oh, you did? I never go on TikTok, so I need to go on it. That's been my one kind of like, I don't understand it. So I have an account, but I don't hardly do anything with it because it's
I
sort of
don't really
outside of my.
understand it either.
There's a learning curve with it, man. It
I've
is
learned
like, yeah.
consistency is the key. Like,
Hmm.
just post something every day,
Oh,
and your following will go up.
okay. I need to do it because I know it's a thing. I keep thinking, well, maybe they're gonna shut it down, but then they won't shut it down. It's
I
gonna be
went through
too
that
big.
too, and I was really stressed about it. And I'm like, well, if they do, I've got them all backed up anyway. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? We keep all of our stuff on all these platforms that sometimes I forget about that. I'm like, if
Yeah.
they shut Instagram down, I would lose 2/3 of my coolest pictures, because that's where they live.
yeah,
But
like
yeah,
every time they say they're gonna change something up, I'm like trying to
yeah,
follow through, like asking questions, like, well, what's the new, like, what's the most updated version of what's going on?
yeah, yeah. I know. I know.
Yeah, the TikTok thing was intense though.
Yeah, yeah. Looks like it's here to stay for a while, I think.
So, how would you say that you navigate the music industry while staying true to your own self? Because the music,
That's a
like,
good
they try
question.
to mold you. Like, how do you find a balance for that?
Yeah, they that's a really good question. So I'm old enough now where I kind of know who I am. I know what I want to write about. I'm still new as a musician and still new as a songwriter and all those things. But even that, I kind of have a feel for who I am and where I want to go with this thing. And so that becomes easier when you're not afraid to draw your line in the sand with people and say, "No, I'm this is who I am." And if you don't want to sign me because I'm not right for you, that's okay. I'll just keep doing my thing on my own. I don't have to have a label. I don't have to have an agent. I don't have to have a manager. I do all this stuff myself anyway. I'm starting now to collect some help because these people, they see what I'm doing. They say, okay, we want to get on board with this brand. But when we have those conversations, I always say, this is what the brand is. And I'm open always to feedback, but that doesn't mean I'm going to change and mold around what you want me to be because I know who I am and I'm doing this because I love it. I, it's, I think, like I said earlier, I think you have to stay true to your authentic self or it becomes very apparent very fast in your music and people aren't going to like it. So, write for you and write what you want to write about and say what you want to say. I mean, I've got some lyrics where people are like, "What are you doing there?" And I'm like, "This is what I want to say." And I've had people that were, I thought, on my side that kind of disappeared when I
Mm.
continued down the path I continued down because they were like, "Well, you're a little too, pop princessy with the pink hair and the motherfucking tip jar song and blah 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 and like
Well,
we
we
think you
are
need to
here
be
for it.
just like I am too. It's super fun for me." And that's why I said, you know what? It's okay. It's okay if we're not a fit for each other. But that doesn't mean I'm gonna stop doing what I want to do just because you don't agree with it. So that's
Now, as
kind of
far as
yeah.
touring, like, you gotta have some great stories for touring. Like,
Oh my
as far
god,
as your
dude.
bandmates, do you guys like hang out besides performing?
We I have had a rotating cast of characters for a long time as part of the band. And I have had people that were just, raging alcoholics. I've had people that have coke problems. I've had people, it just, all of the things that you hear about in the music industry that cause problems are a legit, real thing. You know, I've had people, sitting on guitar amps crying at the end of the show. I've had all kinds of things happen that I'm like, what are we doing? Let's get our shit together, be professional. Um, but I see the good in people and I have loved my exploration of the music world and my bandmates and everything else. They've also at times driven me absolutely crazy. My current iteration of bandmates are amazing. And it has taken me a long time to find them. I mean, I say a long time. You know how it is. The band world, the music world, people are like, it could take years and years and years to find your bands. Some people never really find the right fit. My current group of people is just everybody's professional. they drink, but they don't overdo it. So we put on a good show. Now people aren't getting up there getting all sloppy on stage, because to me that's important. I drink too, but I know that the music comes first. I want to put on a good show. I'll drink after the show. That's fine. But let's go out there and do what we're supposed to do. We have a job. So I think that my current guys are just, they're just so great. And we're starting to, you can tell that the show and the music is elevating at an exponential rate from where it was before, just because everybody's on the same page and they're all practicing at home, and we come together and we woodshed and we work on the harmonies and we do all the like in the weeds stuff. And it's just great. But these people took a long time to find,
I
and
was
it
about
was,
to say, with your songwriting process, like what goes into that? Like some bands, they kind of do their own thing and then come together. Like, how do you guys, what is your way of doing it?
so far, I've been the only songwriter because, again, I've rotated. I mean, I've been through like 40 bandmates in the last 2 years. It's been a lot. These aren't just subs. These are like people I thought were going to be in the band.
I know some people that have been looking for bandmates that actually go on dating sites to find
Wow.
someone.
I I don't doubt it. It's just such a hard thing to find the right fit, because they got to have the same schedule, they got to have the same goals. If you want to tour, that's a whole nother beast you got to tackle. Because if you got a day job, how do you go on the road? So they got to like the same music. Everybody's got to get along personality wise. So it's just a really really hard thing to find 4 to 5 people that all can kind of work well together. So it is a process. And touring, you got to like the person. If you're going to be in a van we're in the van for 16 hours at a time sometimes. 6 guys in the van for 16 hours, you got to kind of like each other. So that's a thing. Anyway, I forget what your original question even was, because I went off on my little tangent about it. But yeah, it's a hard thing to find bandmates. But the writing process. um so that's my job, right? I'm the songwriter because that's what I bring to the table. I can't play guitar, I can't play drums, I can't play any of the things, like barely, right? So I bring my song to the table and I say, okay, here's the song I wrote, here's the melody, here are the chord changes as I see them. What kind of sparkle can we add to it? And my bandmates, we play it live and get to in rehearsal, and they say, hey, I kind of hear this happening here. I hear this chord being a little different here, because my limited little category of chords, they come up with a lot of much cooler stuff because they're all classically trained and super smart in the music theory world. So like, oh, we hear this or that. So that's how we do it currently. I can see all of that evolving, because now that I have a real band of musicians who give a shit and who are great and who write and do stuff, now I could see some collaborative stuff happening. It's just taken a while to get to a point where I have bandmates where I would want to do that. Because if you write with somebody and all of a sudden you're splitting the credit or whatever, and then you part ways, it sucks when you feel like you did the lion's share of the work and then you just gave away some of the writing credit to somebody just because you like them, as opposed to did they really truly contribute to the song. So all of that stuff for me is sort of evolving. But that's
Works
the
in with
one
my next
thing.
question, because I was going to ask you, like, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, like with the band, and where do you want to go?
I mean, I'd like to be touring as much as possible. I think for me, I love being on the road. Um, Playing around Texas is cool, but for me, getting out on the road and exploring the world, maybe even internationally. We played in Mexico recently, and that was awesome. And so I think getting out and pushing the boundaries and exploring new cities, for me, that's part of the appeal of doing what we do, because I'm just kind of a nomad anyway. And so that's sort of where I see this evolving. Is I'd like to be playing bigger venues, bigger shows, but touring, quite a bit until I'm too tired of doing that and don't want to be on the road as much anymore. And then maybe I move back into doing a lot more time in the studio. Or I love production. I love the idea of someday kind of being involved on the producer side, because I help with my own music, because I really have a vision for what I want. So I like to be involved on the producer side too. I don't want to just be kind of a silent party on that. So that's an area that I see myself evolving professionally too, is just getting into the studio a little bit more. But yeah, right now my number one goal is to just bigger shows, more bodies in the room. Continuing to write and release. I've got a couple more albums written, so that I'll be going back into the studio in October to start those. Yeah, so we'll see. I don't know. There's just a lot of moving parts, and I'm kind of seeing what I like doing. And the band is just finally a great group of people. And so I think that's going to continue to evolve, and we're only going to get tighter and closer as a group.
I
So,
love to ask, since you have toured a lot, what are some of your favorite venues or spots that you've played in?
well, I really like I said, I'm sort of partial to that Hilton Head area that we've played. There's a place out there called Uncorked that uh, I sort of feel like if we ever really hit and make it big, I'm gonna be like, we got our start at Uncorked and Hilton Head, because that was the first big group of people that came to see us, and then they've
That
been
person
following us
sounds
ever
cool.
since. Yeah, it's super cool. It's super cool, and so I love that venue, and they've continued to evolve and build their sound system and make it just better. And they're pulling Austin bands now out there to go play. Kind of, we played. There was an Austin band called Madam Radar that played the night before us, and then we played on the Saturday night. It was great. So I'm sort of partial to that area. I'm very excited though to go play the Pacific Northwest tour, because I think a lot of those venues, they're part of this the Spanish Ballroom and the White Eagle, the Portland and the Tacoma shows, are both part of a chain of called McMenamins. And McMenamins has taken all of these old venues and repurposed them and made like cool old hotels and music venues and stuff. So they took like this big sanitarium and made it into a hotel, and then there's like
Oh,
a
that's
music
cool.
venue there. Yeah, so they do stuff like that, and so we're playing a couple of their venues, and I'm very excited about that, because that's the kind of place I like playing. I like, ticketed venues, but funky decor, and just feels, like it's got some history to it. So I think this next year we're gonna have a bunch of new venues that we're like, okay, these are our new favorites. But right now, like I say, I'm always going to have a special place in my heart for Uncorked. And then we've got some really cool venues in the Austin area. And yeah, we're getting out on the road. And
Will you be wearing a tutu?
I mean, you never know. You got to come to the show and find out, right? I do always wear something cool, but sometimes a tutu, sometimes not.
Do you have any fun rituals or routines that you or any of your bandmates do before the show?
So I always go for a run, because I need to sort of clear my head, and those first two songs are always, I always feel like I'm kind of out of breath because I'm sort of settling into it. Almost like when you start a workout, you always have that warm up period. So I've gotten into the habit where I'll just go run for like 15 minutes. My drummer always does jump rope in the parking lot to warm up. So while he does that, I'm running around, and I'm always in my outfit, so my stage outfit. So I'll be running in like, cat ears and a tutu and like a shiny sports bra, or like a, bra, whatever, and like knee socks and whatever. It's just running down the road. So I've got all these videos of me just running in ridiculous outfits, like through the middle of town. So that's my ritual, is that I need to go warm up and get away from everybody for 10 or 15 minutes and just like get a little sweat on before
Oh,
I get
you
on
gotta
stage.
start posting them on TikTok.
Oh God.
You have
Yeah, okay.
to.
You're right.
I
You're right.
love
You're
those
right.
girls that just did that rap song, Hello Christ. I sinned again. Like they run through all these different places, and it's this girl and her friend, and they're just great. They're so entertaining. They're like running through like different festivals and like McDonald's, and
Oh,
they've
that's
made
great.
like a whole thing out of it.
I will need to check them out, because I probably have a lot of those kind of videos. That would be good. If that's what I need to put on TikTok, I can do it. Like I
Yeah,
said, I
that's
don't
so
understand
fun.
it. That's great. That's great. So yeah.
So Jesse, is there anything that you wanted to ask?
I just want to say that one, I love your music videos. You can tell the amount of work and how much fun went into it. I like spent all day just like on YouTube, like
Oh,
watching
thank you.
them. I was just like, I was very impressed. I had no idea that you yourself put so much into them, because I was like, these look amazing. I was like really
Thank
impressed.
you. Thank you. I
Like
do them all myself. So thank you so much for saying
I
that. That
had,
means
I
a
had
lot.
no. I thought you were like spending like dough on them. Like, yeah, I was like very impressed with that. So here,
You have no idea how, because I'm not techie. So for me, that's the biggest compliment, because it's
really, I genuinely
all
was
night
like,
trying to
when
figure out,
you
how do
were
I
like,
move this thing?
when you're like, I did them myself. I was like, eh. I was like, really? I could
Thank you.
never.
Thank you. You'd be surprised. Trust me, if I can, anybody can.
Just like how involved you are overall, like, is incredible. Like, you
Thanks.
got your hand in every part of the pie. You're like,
Well, and I
you're like,
think that part of things, I love it. And at some point, the plate gets too full, right? Because I can't,
yeah.
especially the busier we get, the more we tour
Mhm.
and stuff. Like I'm managing a band, I'm writing all the songs, doing all the promo, doing all the, it's just at some point it's too much. But I think because I've been able to do everything to some extent, now I know who the shysters are. When somebody comes up and they're like, "Oh, we want to take this, for this much money, and
Yeah.
we'll do this or that." I'm like, "Okay," but I know how much that costs because I've done it before. So I think that's also something that's good for all musicians to do is just, do your own booking for a while, do your own management, manage your own band, write your own stuff, because then when you get ready to negotiate with somebody what
You're
they
not gonna get
actually can do for
steamrolled.
you. Yes, exactly. And what you actually, because a lot of times I prefer to do my own creative, my own posters, whatever. I could outsource that, but
Mhm.
I want control over that. And there are some things that it doesn't matter if I hand off control. At some point, booking is, please, by all means, take booking away because it is such a nightmare. But the creative stuff, I still like keeping that. So anyway, yeah, I think it's good for people to do all their own stuff to some extent. Just
That's
to
So,
how
learn them.
what kind of things do you have planned for summer? Like when you're
Summer.
not singing and performing, what else do you like to do?
Well, so in my other life, so between when I stopped playing music for a while and got into this more recently, my interim, I started a company. So I have a company called Run Lab, and we do running biomechanics analysis for runners, physical therapy, that sort of stuff. And so we've got locations in Austin and Phoenix and Tampa. So that keeps me very
wow.
so when I'm not playing music, that is what I'm doing. Or running. I run, I do adventure racing, like mountain bikes and stuff like that. So I stay busy, but I love it. And I love that it's two different sides of my brain. The creative stuff and the music stuff is kind of where I think, uh, sort of where my heart is from being a kid, because that's all I did as a kid is play my trumpet in every band I could play in. But the biomechanics and all of that is just it's the sciencey piece of my head, and it's a whole different problem to solve. So when I get frustrated with music, I can kind of shift my mindset or vice versa. So it's a lot of work, but it's awesome.
That's
It's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's
And
very
and what
inspiring.
what got you into that?
Oh man, I was so I couldn't swim as a kid. I was super afraid of the water. And I was like, same thing as with the singing. I was like, I'm gonna do this thing to like conquer this fear. So I decided I was gonna do a triathlon, like in my low mid 20s kind of thing. I was like, I'm gonna do a triathlon. I just want to do one and check that box. And then I did one little sprint, and I was like, oh, I kind of really like this. So then I was like, I'm gonna sign up for an Ironman, which is yeah, it's 2.4 miles of swimming, it's a 112-mile bike, and then it's a marathon. So we're not talking like a
That's
just little a sort of
insane.
Insanity.
yeah.
People
So I signed.
train
Uh, uh,
forever.
I know. Well, I learned. So I signed up for one in Coeur d'Alene of all places, which was hard. So anyway, but I got to training for it, and I was like, I love this stuff. And I kind of had some natural ability on the bike, but I was a terrible swimmer. Like I say, I kind of taught myself to swim to get over the fear of the water. And then, and the running was really new to me because I'd never been a runner. So I got into running, and then I started getting injured because I was like, oh, I don't know how to run right, the mechanics piece. And so I ended up going into a doctor's office thinking, they're going to help me with some of these mechanics problems, send me to rehab, whatever. And I had some knee issues. And the guy said, this was an MD that I had done tons of research on. It was orthopedist who specialized in runners. And he said, well, what you need to do is you probably need to stop running. You just need to take up biking because it's bad for your knees. And I'm like, 25. I'm like, this
Hell no.
feels like the wrong answer. I had run 9 miles to my appointment that day, even. I just wanted to figure out what I was doing wrong. So I threw that guy's card in the garbage, and I had all this pre-med stuff done because at the time I was a volunteer firefighter and I kind of wanted to go be an ER doctor. And so I was ready to go to medical school. And I was like, you know what? Screw that whole idea. I'm going to do this big pivot. I ended up going to chiropractic school, having never been to a chiropractor before. I had no idea what I was getting into, but I had all of the prereqs done. I was like, I'm going in so I can learn all about the body. So I did that. And then I got out and I started Run Lab. And so through that whole process, I learned so much about biomechanics and I solved all my own stuff. I haven't had a running related injury like since then, since my early 30s. And I've done 4 Ironmans, I've done 72-hour adventure races, like long things, no running related injuries. And so it was all about just shifting my mechanics. So I thought, man, if I can fix myself, I can help anybody, because I was a disaster. And so that's why I started Run Lab, was to help other people. And so that's how this whole thing has spun up and escalated and grown, is that we get all these runners that are like, the traditional medical system just fails us, and so they end up in our office and we work on their mechanics. We're like, all you're doing is this little thing. You fix this and all of a sudden your knee pain goes away. And they're like, it's magic. It's not magic. Just
So if viewers are interested in getting more information, Run Lab?
Yeah, Run Lab. It's the website is runlabaustin.com. And then, like I say, we've got Phoenix location, Tampa location, but you can find everything through that site. But yeah, we take insurance, we do virtual stuff, so we can help people really anywhere they are. But yeah, it's a cool company. I'm super proud of it. And that's what I did leading up to music. And now I can run it from home. So I can
And you work with rehabbing them also?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll do the analysis and we'll say, okay, this is where your mechanics are wonky. This is where your weaknesses are and your strengths and all the things. You get this big report. You get a bunch of videos of yourself doing all the stuff with a voiceover saying, this is what we see. And then the next step is, okay, here's what we need to do about it. So if you live in one of our areas, you can come into our clinic, or if you don't, we can work with you virtually or work with your PT or whoever you are with, in your local city, and just kind of help guide them on what to do. So yeah, it's kind of an analysis process, and then now what do we do about it? But yeah, it's awesome. I love it. It's a company that I'm super proud of.
So what was it like to do Ironman? Like,
hard. And it was, oh my God, that first one especially, because Coeur d'Alene. So I did Coeur d'Alene once and I did Texas 3 times. And Texas used to be out in Houston and it was like 105 degrees and like 90% humidity. So but it was flat. Coeur d'Alene, the very first one I did, and mind you, this was when I was still kind of learning how to swim, and the swim is long, and it was 58 degrees, so it's freezing. I'm like blue by the time I come out of the water, and then it's all hilly for the bike, and it's cold, and then by the end of the day, it's super hot. So it just, Coeur d'Alene was super hard, but Ironman in general is super hard. I got out of that world because I got into adventure racing, which is mountain biking and kayaking and running through the woods. So you have a map and compass. So you're running through the woods like a kid, like trying to find checkpoints out in the wood, but you can take whatever route you want. You don't have to take any prescribed route. You just try to find as many checkpoints as you can. But I got into that world because the people are just so much fun and like chill. That the triathlon world, people are very aggro, right? And they're like, everything is structured and regimented, very competitive. Yeah. Even if you're like the most average triathlete, you're like, okay, I gotta, I can't go out and have drinks tonight because I gotta get up in the morning and train and da 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 da. Like, to each his own. That's cool, but I just kind of, I wasn't. I just.
You're a free spirit.
I'm a free spirit, and I just I want to do it because it's fun and awesome, and you're working your body really hard, and it's a cool thing to do, and it's really hard. It's a big challenge, but I don't need it to be my only identity, so that's why I got out of it.
That is that's so fun.
I'm blown away.
That's crazy. Like,
I don't think I've met anyone who's actually done one.
Neither have I. Like, what's the one where you get like the orange headband? I've had.
Those are Spartan races.
Those are Spartan races.
Or mud run or something.
Yeah, I've done a Spartan race too, and they're usually. I think the long ones are like the one I did was 13 miles of running, but it had all the obstacles, so you gotta like run through fire and go across monkey bars and do all kinds of like climbing over. Wow. I went and did the first one. I showed up because 2 of my Run Lab employees were like, come do the Spartan race with us. And I was like, okay, that sounds fun. And I didn't realize I never did any upper body strength stuff, right? Because I was just really a runner and a cyclist. And oh my God, we get to the starting line. There's all these like huge, beefy people, like CrossFitter style. And I was like, uh-oh, I think this is going to be hard. And they have this wall that's only like 4 feet, but you have to climb over it to get to the start. And I couldn't even get over that wall. I had to have my teammates help me like boost me over. And I
I
was
am
like,
the
it's
worst
going to be
climber.
a long day. It's a skill. And like once you learn how to do it, it's not that big a deal, but I had no idea what I was in for. And it was like pouring down rain, and my guys were like, oh my God, we're going to be out here all day with her. And sure enough, we were out there pretty much all day, but it was fun. But yeah, those are Spartan races. They've got their own other set of crazy people that do those things.
Okay, and as far as your songs, is the album out?
Yep, Sticks and Stones came out on May 19th, so the full
Okay.
album's out. CDs are available. You can get them on Cleopatra, my label's website, or Amazon has them. You just Google Trashy Annie, Sticks and Stones, or CDs or whatever. And then I have an order of vinyl on the way. So vinyl's
Oh,
gonna
that's
be
so fun.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
found out that one of my girlfriends that I grew up with actually makes records.
Oh,
awesome.
cool.
Yeah. She
No
posted
kidding.
herself in the factory the other day, like making records. I was like, that is so badass.
It's really awesome. And the technology is a little antiquated. It takes forever to get a run of albums now. So hopefully they're sort of working on new solutions for how to speed that process up. Because I mean it's 8 months from the time you order a run of albums to the time you get them delivered. Yeah. And they're super expensive.
They're
So
huge now, though.
I know they just surpassed CDs for the first time, I think this year or last year. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, it's made a huge comeback. I love vinyl, so I'm super excited that it's making a comeback. Yeah.
Yeah, I just found my mom. She loves Carole King, and I just
Oh,
found her the one that has I felt the earth move under my feet.
yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. What a great gift. That's fantastic. Yeah.
So, will you have them in your merch store?
Yeah, and Cleopatra will sell. They do all the distribution for that stuff. So on their Cleopatra.com, or I think it's CleopatraRecords.com, there's a site where people. But again, it'll all be on Amazon too because they distribute it through all and Merch Bar and through our website. So it'll be pretty easy to find once.
Now, do you have a date, or you just know it's coming up?
I just got the message that they're in production now, so I would imagine within the month we'll probably have them. So yeah, hopefully I maybe by the time we go on our August tour, but that feels pretty quick. I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited though because I did kind of a random grab bag color thing, so every album will be different, like color.
I was just gonna ask, what color
vinyl.
did you make them?
I just went with grab bag. So it could be, they could all come back black or could be splatter paint of different color. It's just like it's kind of just decide, to get the rando colors. And I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. Let's do that. So who knows?
It must be so much fun to like put it together.
It is fun. It's a lot of work, and it's one of those things that in the middle of it, you're like, "What am I doing?" 2 in the morning, trying to move things back and forth to try to get everything perfect. But it is fun because of the finished product. There's so much pride in having done something yourself, and I think that's a big thing for me too. It's just, man, I did this. I can't believe I did this. I can't believe 3 years ago I couldn't play a guitar at all. Now I have an album. It's just so cool. So yeah.
Okay, and with that, we're gonna say goodnight before the storm gets any worse because it's really beating down here.
Okay. Well, you
But
guys go
thank
be
you
safe.
so much for coming on.
Thank
And
you.
we'd love to have you on in the future.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I'll have another album we're gonna get in the studio in October. But yeah, I would love to see you guys in person. We'll have to come up there and play a show.
Yay!
Sounds
We
good.
love that.
We'll have
Yes.
to try to talk to Nick and see if we can get you over at Love Drafts or like one of these spots around here.
Yeah, let me know if you've got some venue ideas because, like I say, I'm currently doing all the booking myself, so it's nice to have a connect. But we would love
Yeah,
to come up to
definitely.
that area. So thank you guys so much for having me. This has been awesome.
Thank
It
you
was
so
lovely to
much
meet
for
you.
coming on.
Well, thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh,
So
she is
cool.
so sweet.
I'm blown away. I'm just like so much. I've never like so much on that person's plate. It's like, and she's killing it. I'm like blown away by it.
And you like you kind of tell from when she's sitting there, but oh my god, her body, like it makes sense now
It
that she's like
does.
doing all of those things. Like whatever she's doing is
I
working.
need to. I'm like, you know what? I can do a little. I can put a little bit more on my plate after talking to her. Do you feel like that? I'm just like, you know what? Maybe I
Like
ain't
go
doing
for a
enough.
run around the park.
Yeah, like I feel a little inspired. I'm like,
I'm
yeah,
gonna be
a little
honest, I am
more.
such an ugly runner.
I believe it. That's how I
Everybody
feel.
makes fun of me when I run.
No, I
Like
don't.
I'm like one of those ones that's
You're
like
fl-
wailing. It like doesn't look attractive at
yeah,
all. And like
it's hard to look
I
good when
can't
you
wear
run.
clothes where I can like have my cell phone in because no
Mhm.
matter what I'm doing, I'm gonna knock the cell phone out.
Yeah,
Like
no,
that
I feel
mesh
that.
pocket is not
No,
gonna
it's not
keep
doing
it in there.
anything.
Like it happens on my pants all the time. Like I'll try to get those pants that have like the spot on the side.
It ain't doing shit.
Yeah,
When I get a
yeah, I
shoes,
can put the phone in there if I'm standing straight up. But the second I sit down or like move,
when I
I
get a
kind of like it in
shoes,
the winter when I can wear like tall boots and like
put it in there.
yeah.
I put when I go to shows, I put my phone like in my leggings if I don't have pockets, and then halfway through the show, I have to like dig my phone out from like my fucking crotch because it slips down, and then I'm like digging in my pants looking for my phone and my wallet. That's always a good one.
Your eyes look amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I saw it when you opened them real wide when she was talking about the Iron Man,
Mm,
and I was like, those are some really fierce lashes.
thank you. Beauty supply store.
Really?
Yeah, these are the only ones I wear. Boop, boop, boop.
Yeah, I get really picky about the ones that I wear. Like I don't
You have a very specific kind you're looking
yeah.
for. Yeah.
And I'm really weird. I like to you know how they have those little pieces on the side?
Mhm.
Like I know everybody on like when they do their like get ready with me, like they have them and they keep them. No. I
I
cut
cut
them.
mine off. I cut
Yeah,
them
I cut
off.
them too. Like I don't know how people put them on and keep those little side things.
I
They
don't
always
like
pop
it.
up.
They pop up. They bother me. I
And then
like cut
your
them off
eyelashes
too.
like
Yeah, I cut them off. Also, they're always too wide if I don't cut them off. So I'm like goodbye. I'm hacking them. Hack up everything. Hack up my wigs. Hack up my shirts. Hack up my
I usually have to
eyelashes.
cut them a little bit anyway because
Yeah.
my eyes water. So that's like the worst is when your eye starts watering and
And you
the
got eyelashes
corner
on.
starts coming off. So you got like
Mhm.
an eyelash that's like
You got a
no
wonky one. I hate that shit. Mine is when I'm like the allergies start doing their things. I got a wonky eyelash. I got like I look like I've been crying on one side. It's like terrible. But
And so real quick
hmm
before we say goodbye, I just want to throw out there that I am on the cover of Kimberly Pace for this month. The wild
yeah,
card. It's actually she did two covers. My friend Mandy Marie, she is one cover and she's dressed up as like this naughty nurse.
amazing.
So hot. And then I'm on the other wild card cover and I'm dressed like Harley Quinn. Which for anyone who knows me, like totally in
On
my
brand.
like zone.
hmm
Yes, like out of all the pictures, these are the ones that I felt most myself in.
I'm so proud of you. You looked amazing.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And like even like she just messaged me and she's like, "So, when are we going to shoot again?" Like it's so exciting.
hmm
It really is. She's just brilliant and I just love her so much. So, speaking of things coming up, we are going to Mudvayne coming up. That's Mudvayne, Butcher Babies,
Mhm.
Non-Point, I believe Coal Chamber, like a bunch of them. Excited
Yeah.
about that. And also Snoop Dogg and Wiz.
Oh hell yeah. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, I'm like really psyched about that. I've seen Snoop Dogg before and
Mhm.
he was amazing. It was with
Yeah.
I believe it was Up in Smoke.
Mhm.
And he performed with Eminem in them, but I've never seen Wiz, and I am a huge Wiz Khalifa fan.
Oh hell, I love Wiz Khalifa.
Yes, so I'm so
Yes.
psyched.
That's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, and we also have Fall Out Boy and Bring Me to the Horizon, which I am ready to fangirl out.
Ready. You're ready for it.
Yes, definitely. But I feel like I'm gonna have to like literally start like get another job just to put away money for like
Okay.
concert fees and
Yeah.
like
Like they're expensive, dog.
yeah, concert fees are like $45-$50 and then a sweatshirt.
They're
Talking
like
like 80,
yeah,
85 bucks.
yeah, yeah. I'm not about it these days.
Unless you find someone in the parking lot, but some of them have like tons of people in the parking lot and some you can't find
Mm,
anyone.
yeah.
Like Imagine Dragons, no people in the parking lot. Corn, there were tons of people in the parking lot.
The bootlegs. The bootlegs. We need more bootleggers. Oh my god.
Come on,
It's hard
people,
out
where are you
here.
at with the bootleg tees out in the
It's
parking lot?
hard out here. It's hard out here for us girls.
I love how it like you can like they'll start out at 20 and
Yeah.
by the end you're down to like 15 plus
Mhm.
something else. But so exciting. And is there anything else?
I think
Do you have
that's
anything
it.
coming up?
I don't know what's coming up. I just went to VHS Fest at the Mahoning and it was sick. It was a good time. I roasted my ass off. I was like a rotisserie chicken in the sun in like 90-degree heat, like looking at VHS tapes and shit like that. And I got the actress who played Frankenhooker's autograph. It was sick. It says to Jesse, want a date. Very very happy about that. Going in the future. I know I got some shows. I need to put them in my calendar for sure. I think I'm going to something at Kung Fu Necktie coming up, but
That sounds
there's a
fun.
lot going on this
I don't
summer.
even know what that is, but that sounds so much fun.
Yeah, but it's a venue. But yeah, we are have a lot to look forward to too coming up in the next couple weeks, and I'm really excited about that and all the different people we get to talk to.
And I don't know if you saw, but we have a website. A
Damn, we
pretty
got a
little
website.
podcast has a
We got a
website.
pretty little website.
And it's so pretty.
I love that.
Big thanks to Dennis and Kevin.
We love Dennis and Kevin.
So with that, we'll call it a night. Good
Bye
night,
guys.
everybody. Thank you so much for
Thank you
tuning
so much.
in.
Bye.